Now we have the pleasure to welcome our international guest from Italy. Please welcome Mr. Stefano Curti, the director of Teatro Rossetti in Trieste.
So I come from Trieste. I run the Rossetti Theatre in Trieste. I look after the marketing, and we have a lot of things in common. When the theatre was built back in 1878, we were part of the same administration, basically, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And indeed, in Trieste, it's one of maybe the only city in Italy where you can go to a restaurant and ask for a palacinka and you will get a crab, and ask for a riboyanci and you will have a good cake. So we have some things in common. I have brought some images from how the theater looked like when it was opened in 1878, and we're going to turn 150 years old in 2028, so not far from now. And when it was opened, it had 5,000 seats capacity, and it was designed to host a different variety of different kinds of shows, from operas to plays and drama, but it even hosted circus events, sporting events, political events. So it was really politeama, which is the Italian word for a multi-purpose building. After the war, it became a cinema, and then it fell into decay, and there was even a project to turn it into a parking lot. You see some images of how bad the theater looked like. Then an insurance company in Trieste bought the building at the end of the 1960s and reopened it, and it became the main house of Teatro Stabile, which is one of the big theaters in Italy. We had another restoration between 1999 and 2001, and this is how the theater looks like today. We have this tiny ceiling, which is a quote from the past, because originally the dome could open and old people in the city remembered they could see shows looking at the sky. So we are a charity operating since 1954. We turned 70 last year. We are based at the Rossetti since the opening of the theater in 1969. And we are a public funded organization, and the funding partners are the City of Trieste, the Uni Venezia Giulia region, and the Chamber of Commerce of Trieste. Plus we have a private partner as well. And we are one of Italy's national and regional theaters supported by the Ministry of Culture. This graph is quite interesting because it shows a big difference from what happens in Hungary and indeed in many European countries. Normally, every year, between 60 and 70% of our income comes from box office and selling of our productions to other venues. And only 30 to 40% comes from public funding. So this has a very big impact on our marketing strategies, because indeed the box office is the main source of income. We produce shows, we tour them in Italy. We had a show that opened on Tuesday in Trieste, another one that opened on Wednesday in Trieste, and on Wednesday we had also 2 shows opening in Milan. In the season, our main style is plays and drama. It's about 50% of the shows we present. Then we have about 20% musicals, 10% dance, and 20% are concerts and rentals of the hall to promoters, basically. The season goes from October to May. We run 2 venues, and we do around 400 different shows and different openings every season. And then during the summer, we do also some events. We have traditional shows like big classics. We have contemporary shows. We have musicals, concerts. We host touring shows from the West End. This was when Cats played the Trieste a few years ago, and it's coming back next December. And we were the venue that opened for the first time Phantom of the Opera in Italy. As I told you, we have also a second house, which is a studio theater with 128 seats. And we do summer events. This was an event we did in the park of Miramare, another one in an archaeology museum. And then last summer, we hosted Cirque du Soleil. For us, it is very important to align the big brands of shows like Phantom of the Opera, Cirque du Soleil, with our brand of the Rossetti and with the city of Trieste. Trieste is a regional city. It's not a capital. We have about 200,000 inhabitants, but we have an experience of bringing shows to our city that normally goes to very big markets and very big cities. And this has helped the local economy a lot. But we are at a marketing conference, and I will give you a little bit of the history of how our marketing went. I've been working in the theater for a long time, since the early 90s. And when I started working, like the most advanced piece of technological equipment we have was the fax machine. So I kind of witnessed the evolution and the application of technology to the theater. Back in 1992, we had a very high attendance number, a relatively low number of shows, but above all, the income from tickets was only 9% of the total income. 91% of the income was from subscriptions. And this thing has changed dramatically. When we restored the theater, we had a drop in sales. When we reopened it, we already saw in the early 2000s a difference. By 2002, tickets climbed to 41% of our income, and subscription to 59%. So the habits of the audience were changing. We tried to introduce a new type of subscription called the Stars subscriptions, which is a very flexible form of subscription. You can buy a certain number of stars and you spend them, and each show has a different price. You can spend 1 star for one show, 5 stars for another show, according to where you go and take your seats. And this has helped us keep the subscribers with us. And if we look at this chart, by 2008, the stars overtook the traditional subscriptions. Then the pandemic arrived. It was a big drama for all theaters around the world, and actually Italy was the first country to be hit by the pandemic. And I remember when the government issued the declaration that theaters had to close. We thought this was going to be going on for a week or two, and we started rescheduling the shows, and then we kept on rescheduling. But then we realized this was not going to be a short thing. And I was lucky to find a number of webinars from UK companies talking about marketing. And I remember watching those webinars and hearing the discussions they were giving there. And I said, okay, I'm not doing things in the right way. I'm not looking. I didn't know much about my audience. I didn't look much about the data. And so with the fact that the theater was closed and we had a lot of time to think about strategies and the future, I started working, and I said, we need to restart in a different way. And we commissioned research to a UK company, to a consulting company in the UK, looking at our data. And we needed a way to restart, and we thought that the restarting would be very slow, but it wasn't. So we simplified even more the subscription system, and we had a much better idea on how important it was to look at data. And we eventually introduced a CRM system to analyze the data, because we sell tickets on two different platforms. One is the market leader in Italy, and then we have a different platforms, but we found a way to combine the data into one system. And we started asking questions to ourselves, and we started not to be afraid of changes. And this is an invitation I share with you all. I remember recently I was at a conference in New York, and there was the market director of the baseball league, and he said that they analyzed their data and their audience behaviors, and they realized that their games were too long. So they decided to change the rules of baseball, which is a sport, I don't know much about baseball, but it's a sport that is 180 years old. And they changed some of the rules in order to looking at the behavior of the customers, and changing the rules improved their ticket sales. So we don't have to be afraid of changes. So one of the questions we ask, how many customers are regular visitors and how many are one-time buyers? And the figures I read, I saw in the initial keynote were very interesting, because I've had the feeling that before the pandemic, I was like working with my eyes blinded and just testing with the nose where the market was going. Now I had the data that was supporting me, and the big surprise was that more than 70% of our customers were one-time buyers. We thought it was the opposite, that 30% were one-time buyers and 70% were regular visitors. And you know, this changes your strategy completely, because in the 70%, if you work well, they can come twice, they can come 3 times, because they have an interest for theaters and they've crossed the doors of the theaters. Another question we asked, is it really a problem if subscriptions are no longer the most important way to come to the theater? So is it better like to have one seat occupied 10 times or 15 times, according to the subscription you have, by the same person? Or is it better if that seat is occupied by 15 different persons? Of course, this is a huge marketing challenge, enormous marketing challenge, because, you know, before, when you sold the subscription, you knew that row A, seat number 1, was sold and occupied for 15 shows, and you didn't have to worry about filling those shows. If it's not like that, and you have to fill that seat with someone, maybe with the same person or with some different people for each show, you need to understand what kind of marketing campaign you need to do for that show. But probably if the second thing happens and you have 10 different people occupying that seat, you're going to be much more relevant in your community, because the scope, the theater doesn't become a closed circle, but it becomes much more open, and many more people from your local community will join your shows, and we feel that the theater is a relevant player in the culture of a city and the region, and the economy of a city and the region. Another question, how many different visitors do we have each season? Before having the data, I thought it was in the range between 20 and 30,000. In reality, after looking at the data, it's 80,000. So I was making a huge mistake before. because I didn't have the chance and this is something that I can give to my stakeholders and show how much more relevant I am. Then what's the average age of our audience? Is there a difference between shows? And we range incredibly. There are some shows where I have 25 years old average, and some shows where I have 52, 55 years old average. When I did Phantom of the Opera, I was pretty sure that the average age would be pretty high. It wasn't. I mean, the best-selling age group was 26 to 30. So even, the artistic choices sometimes have a little bit their eyes blinded, because and I changed the marketing campaign. I went much more on social media than on traditional forms of campaign. Where do our visitors come from? Another surprise we have from Phantom of the Opera. We sold tickets in Australia. We sold tickets in New Zealand. We sold tickets in Japan. And, a regional theater can become an international player. And so now we have this system, and we have a dashboard that really lets us read the average age and you see the map, and we have visitors from Hungary, we have visitors from Austria, and for each show I can just have a split where the people come from, the average age, and you see. And this is, something that is very important to share with local community, with local businesses, and then with stakeholders and with sponsors. So after the pandemic, we realized that we can talk to an audience that goes beyond our city, our region, and sometimes our national borders. And we can become more relevant in our community, attracting different types of audience, because we can have young people for certain shows, older people for others, and when you diversify your offer of shows, you get interest from different groups, and sometimes it's maybe people that will come once in a season to the theater, but in a very rich offer like the one we have, they will probably find a different show to come to. And we are realizing this with Cirque du Soleil. We had approximately 15,000 new entrances in our database. And many people that bought a ticket for the first time with us for Cirque are now buying tickets for some of the shows of this season. And they come from, let's say, the Venice region, the Padua region, Slovenia, the Ljubljana city and region. So we kind of expand our reach. And we have become much more relevant in the community, because local businesses understood that theater can be important, because they had guests in their restaurants or in their hotels or in their shops saying, we've come to Trieste because we wanted to see a show, and now we spend in the weekend there. So local businesses are now coming to us and asking, what are the next shows you're going to do in Trieste? So what are the consequences of the information we got from the data and the choices we decided to do after the pandemic? Well, we scheduled shows during holiday periods. I remember putting like a crossing the holidays and saying it doesn't make sense because all the local people are going away on holiday. Now we have the local people are still going away on holiday, but we had many people that come to Trieste for the holidays, and they come to the theater and they choose to come to Trieste rather than another city in Italy because there is a show on in our theater. we book shows in English, or we book no language shows, like you've seen an image of Slava's No Show or Circus. There is a lot of offer in the international market for no language shows. So there is no language barrier. And also we have to look at the location where Trieste is. We are 5 kilometers from the border with Slovenia, 25 kilometers from Croatia, 120 from Austria. So we can have a much wider appeal in the neighboring states. We also favor, this is it. I think that the topic of this conversation is the balance you need to find between artistic decisions and numbers. Sometimes the marketing person falls too much in love with numbers and forgets about arts. And sometimes the opposite happens. But one thing that sometimes I tell to the artistic director is, well, maybe you are not 100% sure to put that show in the schedule, but it's a show that is very interesting for a certain community. And we are going to have people from that community joining our database. And maybe we can expand our reach and our audience to a new audience. So that becomes attractive from a certain show. And our customer numbers have more than doubled since we introduced the CRM system. We have about 135,000 contacts right now in our database. We mark the shows internationally, especially through social media. And also, we notice that the audience gets very engaged in watching a show in the Rossetti Theater, which is a very old style but modern theater as well. And everyone, whenever they join, they get into the house, they take a photo, they make a selfie. So watching a show under the stars of the Rossetti is something we market well. And we also listen to our audience. We have an automation that the day after the people come to the theater, they receive an email thanking for the visit and a link to a questionnaire with a few very simple questions. How was your experience? And we have also an open question, and lots of people write comments there. And one thing that we noticed was that sometimes they were not happy about the price they paid for that seat and the quality of that seat. And so we changed the sectors, and we sat on every different seat, and we made a much wider range of pricing, from the premium tickets that are the very best ones to the very low visibility seats, which are still there and we need to sell them, but we sell them at a very, very low price now. Like if we have an 80 euros for a premium ticket, the low visibility seats will sell for 80 euros. So people know that the difference is for some reason. And this was only listening to the people. We've introduced a premium ticketing system, and we keep on talking to our core audience. I mean, we didn't forget our subscribers. Even if they are a very low percentage now, we are still talking to them. And so just look at the difference. 1992 was 9% subscriptions, 2025 9% tickets, 91% subscriptions. 2025 was 87% tickets and only 13% subscriptions. So the difference is enormous. And this is the income from our box office. That was 2018 was the last year before the pandemic, and we had a good, I mean, it was like our average yearly subscription. Then the pandemic came and it was a disaster. We went to 200,000 euros, the box office income in one season. It was a total disaster. And like in the first season that was without restrictions, that was 2022-23, We did much better than before, and the last year was, a result that I wouldn't have believed if someone showed me that slide 5 or 6 years ago. So this is it. I hope I gave you some information and some ideas on what we've done in Trieste. You can contact me on by email, on my social media, and you can follow our theater on the different social media channels we have.